Hello everyone from sunny Thailand. Now, over the past year, many of us at some point or another have had to experience isolation through the Covid-19 lockdown. So in this video, I want to discuss the role of video games during isolation and how in fact they can be beneficial to our mental health. Let's get to it. In a quarantine hotel just outside of Bangkok, Thailand, where I will be staying for the next 2 weeks. As part of the quarantine rules, I can't leave this room. I have to stay here the whole time. Okay, it is day 13 of 14. I leave tomorrow morning, so I'm feeling very happy at the moment, very positive. It's been a challenging experience. I did think it would be easier than it has been, but being confined to the same four walls, it has had quite a few challenges with it. If anyone was to do this in the near future, any advice I would give is to bring as much entertainment as possible. Now, I anticipated this, but with my luggage allowance, I could only pack so much. So with me, I brought my PS Vita. It's already preloaded with quite a few games, and I've got to say that this helped me through the process quite a lot. There was a lot of hours spent on it. I was getting lost in quite a few stories. I was very engaged. It helped pass the time. With that in mind, I would definitely recommend gaming during any sort of lockdown restrictions, 100%. So you can see from my hotel quarantine experience that there was plenty of moments of difficulty, where the biggest challenges were overcoming feelings of boredom and loneliness. But it's not just me. Isolation is something we have all had to endure at some point during this past year. By regularly playing video games both here and in the UK during the nationwide lockdowns, my message in this video is that video games are good for you, as they can alleviate the feelings which contribute towards poor mental health. Let's look into the facts and theory behind this. One of the most notable causes of mental health problems during the Covid-19 lockdown was due to loneliness. A recent study compared data taken from UK adults both before and after the first lockdown back in March 2020, identifying that young adults aged 18 to 30 and those who live alone were at a higher risk of loneliness during the pandemic. These two groups cater for a large portion of the population, accounting for the elderly, students, and childless individuals. When talking about how video games can be socially valuable, there is a lot of research that specifically found reductions in loneliness and depression, and that it's particularly valuable for people who are isolated. Using video games as a means of socially connecting with both known and unknown gamers may afford a sense of positive feeling to members of these risk groups. In recognition of this, Xbox recently launched a campaign to encourage people to donate their old unwanted Xbox consoles to members of the older generation in a bid to combat lockdown loneliness. Looking at a comparison between 2019 and 2020, the US gaming industry experienced a huge sales boost during March 2020, notable for being the time when Covid-19 stay-at-home directives were first imposed. Verizon, a US-based telecommunications provider, also reported a 75% increase in online gaming activity during the same month. These statistics show significant increases in both sales and engagement, suggesting an increasing preference towards gaming as a coping mechanism for this particular isolation period. Self-determination theory suggests that people are motivated to grow and change through the satisfaction of three basic psychological needs. These are competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Each of these we'll discuss in more detail shortly. Previous research often connects the self-determination theory to the gaming world, where video games are suggested to satisfy these three basic needs. Okay, so let's look at it this way. Video games. You play them because they're enjoyable, they're interesting, they make you feel good, they give you the motivation to continue playing, and they make you want to revisit again at a later date. This is known as intrinsic reward, positive psychological feelings associated with playing video games. This is especially important during the Covid-19 lockdown, as it is vital to do the things you enjoy whilst being stuck in isolation, necessary to maintain positive mental health at this time. Okay, so let's take a look at these three basic needs as suggested by the self-determination theory. Competence is essential to wellness, to feel effective in your environment, to have some sense of mastery over the things that are important to you. It's basically to be good at something. Environments can have a big impact on a person's competence. When an individual is placed in isolation, their environment becomes very much limited and restricted. Therefore, an alternative solution is required to satisfy this need. As an alternative solution, gaming provides a path to mastery, with the opportunity to gain new skills and develop your character's abilities through continuous play. To accommodate the standards of today's players, game developers have been creating worlds which contain various additional aspects, encouraging competence for completionist type gamers, gradually moving away from the traditional linear approach found in older games. Autonomy refers to behaviour that is self-endorsed, behaviour that you agree with and find congruent within yourself. To be autonomous is to be choiceful. This is particularly challenging during this current pandemic. It is a sad fact our lives in the real world are currently not fully under our control, where we are often told we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't go here and we can't go there. Therefore, perhaps the need for autonomy can be satisfied by substituting the real world for the gaming world. In the gaming world, you have the opportunity to take full control of your in-game character, and with today's technology, there is an abundance of open world titles out there where you can roam as you please, tackle missions and side quests in any order that you wish, interact with various different characters, and even choose what can be said during in-game dialogue. This level of freedom can support flow within the game, where you are once again choiceful. Relatedness is being connected in some way, a sense of belonging, a feeling that you matter to the people around you. Relatedness is not a one-way street. It's not all about what others can do for you, but also what you can do for others. This basic need has also been very much limited this past year, to the point where we are reliant on technology to communicate with others. Relatedness can be applied to the various multiplayer games out there, whether you're playing with friends or family, or strangers from the other side of the world. Gaming can be a way of strengthening existing relationships and forging new ones. Relatedness can also apply to single-player gaming, whether it be the plot of the game or the characters within the story. There must be some kind of emotional investment into that game. The social identity theory suggests that we derive our identity from the groups which we belong to. Psychologist Henry Tajfel suggested that as humans, we tend to group things together, as groups give us a sense of social identity, a sense of belonging to the social world. We view ourselves in the groups which we belong to through positive bias, which Tajfel and Turner identified as the in-group. However, by grouping things together, we seek to find the negative aspects of other groups, whom we perceive to be the out-group in society. Group membership is an important source of self-esteem. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-esteem is a necessary and important step to achieving self-actualization, the realization of one's full potential. If all needs are in check, one can reach the pinnacle of this proposed hierarchy. According to Maslow's research, without self-esteem, self-actualization cannot be achieved. The previously mentioned risk groups will undoubtedly face difficulty in maintaining and building their self-esteem during the Covid-19 lockdown due to a lack of social connection, where feelings of loneliness may cloud any feelings of belonging. Group membership is typically responsible for the prejudicial views in society, such as racism, sexism, religious and cultural differences. Although video games can cause entirely new group divisions, gaming can also bring people together in friendships that cross ethnic lines and gender and cultural divides. There is a suggestion that the growth of gaming during the pandemic hasn't just been because people wanted more entertainment, but rather wanted more interpersonal interaction. Right guys, it's final round, let's make this one count. It's capture the flag, same as last time. Martin, you take the guy on the left, Chris, you take the guy on the right. I'm going to go into enemy territory and take care of that guy who screwed us over last time. Ross, if you go in the middle, get the flag. Once we know you've got it, we'll come in and take care of you. In findings published in 2017, a team of university researchers studied more than 700 players of massively multiplayer online games, or MMOs. The team found that MMO engagement correlated to a stronger sense of social identity, or how people self-identify based on their affiliation to groups. Participants also experienced higher self-esteem, more social competence, and lower levels of loneliness. Anyone who associated with video games was a social outcast, typically stereotyped as a geek or a loner. These negative connotations led to people to not identify as a gamer. However, during this unprecedented time in society, where Covid-19 is impacting us both physically and mentally, gamers are no longer a marginalised group, they are the social majority. The increased sales figures during March 2020 support this, suggesting that it isn't just geeks and loners anymore, but the majority of the population who are in fact members of the gaming community. Perhaps now people are understanding the psychological aspects of video games, where group affiliation through gaming can be beneficial to one's self-esteem during this uncertain time of our lives. Here you can see the top 10 games sold in the US during 2020. Let's take Animal Crossing for example. This game was released right at the start of the pandemic and quickly became the first console game to reach 5 million sales within its first month. That's some impressive numbers. Although reviews may be influential in higher sales volumes, what's noticeable about these particular titles is they support previously mentioned theories which suggest individuals opt to play video games to connect with other people through multiplayer modes or prefer story-driven play as a form of escapism from their current life. Although this video has highlighted that gaming can be a healthy coping strategy for the majority during this pandemic, some of the current concerns must also be mentioned. Before the pandemic, gaming critics suggested that increasing online participation may negatively affect our sociability in real-world settings. With society's current dependency on technology, such criticisms may perhaps be more relevant right now at this moment. Recent studies suggest that lockdown gaming poses a risk to certain vulnerable individuals. Prolonged periods of social isolation and technology-based activity can solidify unhealthy lifestyle patterns. These unhealthy lifestyle patterns can lead to difficulties to readaptation to the real world once the Covid-19 situation has passed. In recognition of this, the World Health Organization published some useful advice on how to maintain positive mental health during the Covid-19 lockdown under the slogan "Healthy at Home." The organisation recommended the use of video games, but only in moderation. Over the years, we have often seen video games in a negative light. However, in this crisis, we have seen one key psychological success. Gaming satisfies people's unwillingness to be lonely and their deep inner desire for social interaction to tackle loneliness, alleviating feelings of anxiety and depression. However, the negative psychological effects must also be considered, especially for those who have been dependent on gaming during the pandemic. Adjustment to normality for gamers could be a focus for future research, especially now as we start to see the light at the end of the Covid-19 tunnel. Well, that's all we have time for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm The Wandering Gamer, and I'll catch you next time. See you soon.